So afternoon and welcome all to the 9th Change Control webinar. We'll be looking today at CR56 and we've got Johnny Moore from RECO who will be taking us through this. Hannah will be sharing the Q&A on the Slido, so please can I remind everyone that this will be a broadcast and not a discussion. So if you have any questions, please add them to the Slido. And if you have any issues with that, please add it to the team chat. So, as I said, today we're going to be looking through Change Request 56, which is about the batching of the ERDS to the CSS agent appointment files. So, Johnny, if you're okay to take us through this.
Yep, afternoon all. As has been said, my name's Johnny. I'm from RECO and we've raised this CR56 on behalf of the REC Technical Change Working Group after issue 204 was raised by St Clements. So I'll just give a brief run through of the issue and then the solution as we've seen it. So currently agent appointments submitted into MPRS are done in a single file, the 205, with all agents going live on a day, creating a single file, the CSS 200 into CSS from ERDS. With the MHHS design, the agent appointments are split, so you'd send a individual appointment file to appoint each agent into MPRS. That currently would issue a new CSS 200 into CSS for each agent. So if you're appointing the MDR and the MEM, you'd get a CSS 200 for each one. These files are sent around about the same time after gate closure. The issue we've identified is that as these files go through the CSS adapter, it's possible that they get changed in order, so that the first file could be processed secondly by the CSS. The issue here is that both files would include all the agent appointments. So if the first file was processed second, one of the agents the old agent would overwrite one of the new agents, and you would only appoint one agent into CSS. That's information that will then we send on to the Smart DSP. So it was agreed at the REC Technical Changing Group that we'd raise a CR on the solution identified there, which is for a change to the MHHS design, so that for the file that goes into CSS will be sent as a single file rather than two. So for all the agents appointed on a certain day, you would send one file only and batch it all up at the end of the gate closure window. That would mean that the agent's appointment would be correct and you wouldn't get an issue. The concern we've got if this change isn't approved or go in is that through the migration period especially, but also for change of supplies in the MHHS world, there is a risk that the agents will be incorrectly appointed, meaning that either the MEM or the MDR wouldn't be live in DSP, meaning that either you couldn't get half-hourly consumption out of the MDR, or you wouldn't be able to process smart MEM activity within the Smart DSP. It's been impossible at this moment to understand the actual amount of time this is going to happen. We've confirmed that it nearly definitely will. But if you look at a very conservative estimate of, say, 1% of the appointments this happening to, then we're looking at 330,000 errors throughout the migration period. Currently, there is no means to identify the problem, and there is no known identified workaround to fix it. So as I say, the CR seeks to update the operational choreography so that a single CSS 0200 message is sent for the registration service, updating both the MDR and the metering service for impacted parties. This single message will detail all agent appointments confirmed at a particular date. We discussed the issue with St Clements, who have advised that the total effort to develop and test the proposed solution will be 14 working days. This isn't encountered in their MHHS resource planning, but it has been taken into account in the CR55 drafting, in which we believe there is space in the proposed CR55 plan to allow this change to happen. We don't expect any impact on any other party other than CSS if the change is approved. And then the target date we're looking at is to implement the solution in time for M10. And yeah, the impact assessment will be sent out after this webinar for parties to respond and add their impact assessment on. Will, does that cover it from your point of view?
Yeah, that does cover it. And I'll just reiterate what you said about the timelines there. So this will be issued for impact assessment tomorrow, and the responses for that will be due at 5 p.m. on the 10th. So that's Thursday, the 10th of October. So I think we'll open it up to questions now, if that's everything you wanted to cover, Johnny.
Yeah, I think that does it.
Just remind everyone that the questions should stick to specifically this change request. I know there's probably some questions about broader sort of change to the program, but we're looking only at 56 for this one. Okay, have we got any questions through on Slido, Hannah?
Hi there, thanks both. We have a question from Alan Matthews. Does this change not, so this change does not affect the number of messages sent to CSS, just the order?
No, the change would affect the number. So we're saying rather than send 2, you would send 1.
Thank you. And then we've got a question in the chat from David. There must also be an impact on DNOs to test this, as it's a change to MPRS? Question.
If that's an impact that's been identified as well, yeah, I think what I meant the system change would be an MPRS one. But if there's other testing impacts, please put that in your impact assessment.
Thank you. And then there's a follow-up question in the chat. Have SCS confirmed they can deliver this ahead of the new M10 date?
Might be better for me to field that one, Johnny. David, so we've had an estimate of the resource time from St Clement's on this as being in the region of 7 working days of their effort. Because this has not all of this functionality has been subject to SIT testing yet, the estimate was between 3 to 4 days. In change request 55, we are making the assumption that 3 to 4 days can be subsumed in the extra capacity we have in the gap analysis sprint that's set out at the end of cycle 3 in the CR55 change request. So whilst it is tight and we are using up some of the contingency that we had in the CR55 timeframe, it can be delivered within that CR55 timeframe, and we have explicitly made that one of the assumptions in CR55. And that's why we are running this impact assessment broadly in parallel, so that we can bring back CR56 to PSG with recommendation in advance of then taking CR55 through that recommendation process.
Cheers, Jason.
Probably fair if I answered that than you, Johnny.
Yeah, no, thank you.
We don't have any other questions at the moment.
Okay, we can give it a couple of minutes, but just for general awareness, we'll keep the Slido open until the end of the day, and then we'll publish a Q&A after that. So if you have any further questions, you've got until the end of the day to submit them to the Slido.
Oh, we've just got a question from Leo in the chat. As the problem statement confirms that irrespective of the order, the registration would either not have the correct MDR or it would not have the correct MM, wouldn't it be correct to say that 100% of MPANs would be impacted in terms of holding the correct record if this change does not go ahead?
So my understanding is that the files include both the history and the new agent. So the first file, for example, would include the MDR, the newly appointed MDR, and the old mem. The second file would include the new MDR and the new mem. If the first file was done the wrong way around, then the new MDR would be appointed, but the new mem wouldn't be. If the second file was processed second that it should be, then everything's fine. So I think to say that all appointments will be affected is incorrect, but we don't know how many times the files will get swapped. And any time a file gets swapped, there would be an issue with the agent appointments.
Thanks. That's great.
Okay, then, if there's no further questions, I think we can close there. And just as a reminder, we'll be keeping the Slido open until the end of the day. Thank you all, and thanks, Johnny, for supporting.
Cheers all.
Thank you.